Hey, everybody. Thanks for downloading this episode of the Black and Gold Podcast, brought to you each and every week by Boonshine Brewing Company, trying to make the high country a better place and to help Boone shine. And this might be one of my favorite promotions ever right here. Shake That Cake is back on, on draft with the help of our downtown Boone neighbors, Espresso News, and collaborators, Lowe's Foods and Divine Barrel Brewing. We brought out the big guns to brew this Sunday pastry of a beer. Looking like a hearty blonde ale, but drinking like a velvety stout, Shake That Cake is our take on a coffee cake inspired brew made with pure vanilla, whole cinnamon sticks, lactose local Venture cocoa nibs from Colombia and Belize, and Espresso News' Fair Trade Sumatra. This oxymoron of a beer smells like a Nilla wafer, Nilla, not vanilla, Nilla wafer, tastes like a cinnamon mocha latte, and that sounds very, very good. I'm your host of the Black and Gold Podcast, Alex Johnson. With me, as always, the world's most famous App State fan who was shaking his cake just before we hit the record button. He is Big C. Big C.
Do you remember how excited I was for this beer last year when it came out?
Yeah.
And I was
thrilled.
like, Tim, dude, it needs to get in the rotation. Like, he's like,
Put it
we're
in a
thinking
can.
about it. I said, no. I've thought about it. You need to put it in a can again. And I don't know if it's in a can. Maybe I just on draft, but man, that is a good one. It is so delicious. If you like a coffee cake, that's the one.
Yeah, there you go.
So good.
It sounds delicious. So we have it's another one of those midweek games. Thankfully, we only have one of those this year. We're recording on a Sunday evening. We have no post game. We didn't play on Saturday, but it's a big week. It is hate week. It is our matchup against Georgia Southern. We do have a special guest. David Jackson's joining us. I hate to say this, like couldn't book anybody else. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I just mean.
That's what you said, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. No, but I mean, David hates Georgia Southern. We hate Georgia Southern. Recording on a Sunday night. Why not just have him on for old time's sake and talk a little bit about this matchup? I'm sure we'll get into some history stuff. And the only bad thing about having David Jackson on really is all the post editing I have to do because he talks so much. But it's okay. We'll work through that. But for now, we're going to cover Olympic sports, and our Olympic sports coverage brought to you by Styles Roofing. For those of you in the greater Charlotte area, if you need your roof repaired or replaced, 704-842-1874 is the number to call or text. Appalachian State alumnus Billy Styles. He's worked with a lot of Black Gold Podcast listeners to replace their roofs and to walk them through the process of filing insurance claims. They're the best in the business. They don't get paid till the job's done and you're satisfied, and they work fast, high quality. So give them a shout. And then Community One Insurance, if you're looking to save money and increase service or have better service, I guess, from your insurance provider, talk to Community One Insurance for those of you in North and South Carolina. Business insurance, RV, boat, home, auto, whatever. If you need something covered, they can help you get the best price. And again, with superior service. Both Walker College of Business graduates are Zach Ligon and Matthew Johnson. To get in contact with them, to get a quote, to see how much money you can save, 828-455-2335, to reach out to Matthew Johnson or email him matthew.johnson@communityoneInsurance.com. Charles, we have some great news here for some sports, not so great news from others. Let's get the bad news out of the way. Volleyball has now dropped 6 in a row. Not great. We do get swept by Georgia State, which brings, I think we're 4-8 now in conference. I believe that's correct, but not looking good. Not looking good on the volleyball front.
Yeah, a little bit of a slide here at the end of the year. That's don't love that, especially when you played at home against a team you probably could have gotten a hold of, and it just didn't work out. Friday night was the closer of the two matches, despite losing the first two sets. The Apps came back and won in sets 3 and 4, but fell in 5, 15-13. And then on Saturday, losing 3 sets to 1. You know how this goes. We won the first one, and that's good. And then got beat pretty bad in the second one by 9, and then a back and forth third set 28-26 loss, and then losing by 7 points in the fourth to finish that one off. Marshall on the road this weekend, as in this weekend, Thursday and Friday, and then Troy back home to finish the regular season. Probably need some wins here. I'm not familiar with the volleyball tournament. If some get left out, I think there are a couple that do. So it'd be nice to see if we can get back to 500 and give ourselves a chance.
Yeah, we need it. I mean, we need to break that streak one way or the other. And then soccer's over. We do end the season beating Georgia Southern, which is awesome. Izzy Wood is sent off on a high note, at least doing that. Very highly decorated player. Hickory's own Izzy Wood. Very happy for having her in the program for all these years, but unfortunately, soccer, Charles, is over.
Soccer's over. Yep. Ellie Garrison gets her 5th goal of the year. I would like to say that soccer started hate week off right, even if it was last week.
Yeah.
But we weren't playing last week in football, so they did the right thing.
Yeah.
At least the record looks a little bit tidier. You know how weird their record has been all year.
Yeah.
7-7-3, so it's not a losing season, right? And then 3-4-3 in conference. Looks a little bit better. But yeah, they got a clean sheet and kept Georgia Southern off the board and got one themselves, put one in the net in the first half.
Yep. Now, ending kind of, we're going to get to the ultimate high note here in a second, but field hockey ends their regular season really in dramatic fashion with a 9-0. Well, I guess it's not too dramatic. I guess there's nothing dramatic about that game. 9-0 against Kent State on Senior Day at home. You love to have an explosion of offense and a goose egg, sending the seniors out. So Appalachian field hockey ends their season, regular season, 7-2 in conference. Really, really strong. Continues to be strong. And we're playing November 5th, Wednesday afternoon, against Ohio in the MAC tournament. The ladies have turned in another great regular season, Charles.
Another great regular season for them. Yep, they're in a good spot. Got the 3rd seed. Believe it's Miami and UMass who tied, and it gave the tiebreaker to Miami. They're the number 1 overall seed, even though UMass was like ranked in the top 25 recently. So if we win against Ohio, we would then play UMass later that week. We beat Ohio 5-3 earlier in the season back in September at home.
Yeah. Now here's the high note that we were alluding to here just a second ago. Appalachian State cross country, they sweep for the 2nd consecutive year. This is from the website. Appalachian men and women's cross country teams, class of the conference, men polishing off a Sun Belt championship, 3-peat Friday, and the women capturing their 2nd consecutive Sun Belt title. Appalachian is the 2nd program in Sun Belt history to sweep the men and women's titles in back-to-back years. That's awesome. It looks like on the men's side, it wasn't even close. Women edged out Southern Miss, who are, I guess, closer in points. But Charles, we're a cross country school, man. I mean, that's the way it is. They have that new facility out there, track and field. They get their work in, and really happy for a program that really, I mean, we don't even cover it enough or mention it enough for the amount of success that they have. So congratulations to the men and women's cross country team.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We've always been really good in that sport over the years. Bounced a little bit more competition in the Sun Belt, and now we've caught up to that, and we are running away with it. That was terrible.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, Arkansas State. These titles are no longer yours.
Wow, that was very nice. Very clever. So yeah, that's Olympic sports. Is there anything else that we need to mention? I mean, I know that here in the coming month, over the next month, basketball and we just had so if you're listening to this and you didn't listen last week, we had a huge basketball preview show with Coach Kearns and Coach Sharp. So I mean, we more than have prepared for what's to come because we haven't played any games yet, so we can't really talk about a game that had happened. We're kicking off the season against Western Michigan tomorrow night. Charles found out that the men are playing tomorrow night, I guess. He found out today. So that's good. I'm glad we can all be on the same page. In Michigan, however, the ladies open up at home. So for those of you that want to kick off Mountaineer basketball, now you're going to have a chance tomorrow night at the home center. Well, I guess by the time anybody's listening to this, it will be Monday. So excited for that. But anything else with Olympic sports that we need to cover before DJ comes on the show?
I think what was really neat about cross country, the men's side at least, is where we finished. Really stacking the top, but the classes of all these runners. So Henry Stark was 4th, and he was a sophomore. Noah Martinson was 5th in this race. He was a freshman. Tate Shore is a freshman. He was 6th. Thomas Wolzowski, I cannot pronounce that. It's probably a silent W, but that's what I'm going with right now, is a sophomore. I do know how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
And then in 9th was Ethan Lippin. He's a senior. But another freshman would finish 12th, Memphis Rich for the Mountaineers. And then another sophomore finished in 17th, Aaron Kidd. So that just shows how deep we are, how young we are, and how, in men's cross country, the future certainly looks bright. Especially with pretty much everyone in front of them finishing or were upperclassmen. Another year with those 3 that finished in the top 3, but man, we are so deep in men's cross country and women's, of course.
Memphis Rich is a really great name. Memphis Rich. I think that's pretty solid.
That's a different one. I love it.
When I clicked on his picture, I didn't know if he was going to have like a FedEx logo on his shirt or what. I don't know, because that's the big company out there in Memphis. I didn't know if he's going to be Memphis Rich and own FedEx. I don't know, but I like that name, Memphis Rich. But he's from, according to his profile here, he's not even from Memphis. He's from Georgia.
Not. He's from Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about Tate Shore from Tobaccoville Tate?
Tobacco Tate. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty good. Can't spit at that name. Anyway, so our segment tonight with the hashtag BGP Mel Satchel and our special guest kind of merging tonight. Special guest segment brought to you by Mountaineer Mania, 497 West King Street in Boone, a downtown staple for 45 years. Mountaineer Mania has provided some of the best apparel and Appalachian State stuff that you can get. Polos, pullovers, hoodies. It is hoodie season right now, so check out Mountaineer Mania for all of your needs. And then if you're one of those diligent people that shop early for people for Christmas, go ahead and check that out now. And every one of your purchases, there's part of the proceeds go to Appalachian State Sports, so it's an awesome thing to support. In the hashtag BGP Mail Satchel, brought to you by Blue Deer Cookies, downtown Boone, downtown Blowing Rock, and West Jefferson. Got some notifications here recently that some of the winners of the cookie cards have been using them, cashing them in. So the only problem, I think I saw Justin Fowler had posted that he went, but he got the mint ice cream. I can't get down with mint ice cream. It's like toothpaste.
Well, no, you can do it. You can do mint ice cream, but I'm just curious if he just got mint ice cream and what cookie did he pair that with?
Oh,
that's the big question, because then you're really going wild with it here.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to find out.
But if you're going peanut butter and mint, that's tough.
So this is it.
And mint, though, has a chance.
So I just pulled it up real quick because this was in the last couple days. Double chocolate chip with mint chocolate chip ice cream.
See, that's a lot of one thing, but I love it. If you're gonna
it's vanilla. It's vanilla ice cream with chocolate chip in it, so it's a nice mix of that
and mint, right? You did say mint.
Yeah, but I can't do mint chocolate chip.
Oh, come on. Even what do you like, butter pecan? What are you, old?
No, I don't want butter. I don't want butter pecan either. Chocolate chip cookie dough is good. Their lemon crunch is really good. Lemon zest, whatever you want to call it. It's really good.
I think you're gonna get some hate for that.
Great. You're frozen or I'm frozen. I didn't hear what you said. There was a blip.
You're going to get some hate for that.
for not wanting men. Okay, that's okay. But
Not
anyway,
getting
we
down
thank.
with it.
No, I'm not down with it. That's okay. I'll die on that hill. But we thank them for being the sponsor of the hashtag BGP Mail Satchel, and we're gonna let David actually determine who gets the card this week. We're gonna bring him on here. DJ, what's going on, man?
Fellas, it's been a while, man, and with all
It
the
has been a
panic
while.
too, I figured out my number would have been called a long time ago.
No, we lost your number for a while.
Yes,
But
you did.
I didn't know if you're going to be in a good mood today or not. Baseball season's over.
Hey, next year has started.
Next year,
Yeah, next year's here. We're
next
ready.
year's here. How are we feeling about the Cubbies next year? Are we going to have to make some moves in free agency? What are we doing?
Gonna have to make some moves. They got some decisions to make, but feel good about the group they're bringing back. They got to make a decision on Imanaga, whether they're going to pick up his 3-year option or whether they're going to. His contract's very complicated, and it's one of those deals where if you didn't trust the guy to throw an inning of your 2 most meaningful games of the year, do you really want him around for 3 years or what? So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
So bunting Guerrero over to third base with no outs. That was the correct move last night, right?
This is an interesting move.
Oh boy, here we go.
Interesting move. I don't know if I'd have gone there that early, but hey,
That
I'm not
early?
the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays either.
That early? It was the
Yeah.
it was the 10th inning,
No,
wasn't it?
with nobody out. There was nobody out, right?
Right, nobody out.
Yeah.
I mean, you go ahead and put him on third base. Any hit whatsoever, the
It
game's
worked out
over.
well for him. Worked out well. I mean,
What it is,
considering
that-
that they've had their
always a
base running
scenario.
woes as evidenced in
Mhm.
Game 6, if Alex, I'd agree with you if it wasn't him on second base. If you're talking about an elite runner who could get off a third base, off anything that was in the dirt, and if that's PCA over there or
That's a good point.
somebody like that, I'd have said yes. But Guerrero takes a minute to get going.
Yeah, that's a great counter to that. It's so crushing because I wasn't pulling for the Dodgers. I don't pull for anybody in the AL East except for the Red Sox, but I couldn't pull for the Dodgers. I couldn't do it. Anytime a bunch of celebrities that are bandwagon fans are happy, we suffer. The people suffer. So
Eugene Levy was crushed. He was in a terrible mood. And Geddy Lee, I mean, that guy, he might cancel their tour.
So the real question is, why are we sliding
Can
feet
we-
first into home plate with a?
That's a
with
better
force
question.
Out?
That's a better question. Run through the base.
Yeah, come on.
Run through the
That's-
freaking base.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe head
But,
first.
but I'll also
at
say,
worst.
too, from an instinct standpoint, how many times do you ever think about running through home plate?
Yeah.
That's
But-
never a consideration. So,
I
I
guess when the
think that.
throw's there. I mean, how many times have players run into catchers?
Snap judgments on. I like even taking it back to the play at the plate in the series where the guy threw home and
Charles, is
All
his
right.
internet as bad as for you as it is for me?
Yes, it is.
David, your
you guys
internet
buffered like twice while I was just sitting.
No,
hanging out.
you buffered. No, you buffered. We're sitting here like, what
I'm
in the
sitting-
world?
My wireless router is right over there.
Yeah,
We probably it's
Couldn't
probably
be
not-
closer
it's
to the
probably
internet.
just fine on the recording.
probably using it with your Android phone.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to have to use AI to decipher whatever you just said. And we'll figure that out later.
It was great. It was among
Yeah.
the most meaningful things I've ever said. Yeah.
Well,
And that's all I have
sure.
to say about that.
That's all we have to say about that. Let's jump into the satchel here. We have some questions. Let's start off with Jason Hutchins, who is always the first person to write in on the Twitters. With things going bad in Poops Creek, I mean Eagle Creek. I'm censoring myself here. When we beat them, do they go ahead and fire Clay Helton before the end of the season? When is Georgia Southern going to realize that they just need to be grateful for making a bowl every other year or so?
That's a great question.
It's tough.
I think we should. Can we start with a different decree? Can we just right now? Let's get some legal tender. Charles works at the courthouse. He can make this work.
He does.
Let's get some legal documentation out there that says that when App beats Georgia Southern, we're not storming the field.
Oh,
Let's just make that a thing right now.
do you have
Can't
a field storming take?
I thought it was a little bit misdirected against Oregon State, perhaps. Understand that that's a nice win if you don't look at the record, but that might have been a little bit too much. Too
Yeah.
much. Act like you've been there before. We can't be the program that aspires to, be one of the 10 winningest programs and pick a date and do that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, don't be sorry. Okay.
I'm really not.
Yeah, I know. Heavy sarcasm there. App 24, App Fan 24. What's worse? I'm gonna see David's face when I read this. Getting a new paper cut every day, or Georgia Southern. Charlie Cobb as your AD for eternity, or Georgia Southern. Biting your tongue each time you sit down to eat, or Georgia Southern. Stubbing your toe every time you get up to go somewhere, or Georgia Southern. Jason Capel, forever your basketball coach, or Georgia Southern. What do you think about that, David?
Wow, those are a variety of opportunities there. Yeah,
this is like made for you.
I'm gonna have to go with Georgia Southern.
Okay,
let's go there.
Jason Capel, your basketball coach for eternity, is better than Georgia Southern. That's how bad Georgia Southern is.
We'll defend ball screens well.
Don Booker, with a history of underwhelming performances on weeknight games over the past few seasons, what are the keys to setting the tone early and keeping the crowd engaged? Do we expect a half-full stadium due to weeknight games, or this being a weeknight game, or do you think we'll fill it up because it's Georgia Southern? Charles, what do you think?
I think it'll be a little sparse. I think the weather is supposed to be actually kind of nice that day, but I still think it'll be sparse. It's not we're not going to win a conference title this year. I think that's pretty certain. So I think that's going to keep some people away. Seen a lot of people on Facebook and other social medias trying to sell their tickets too. So that doesn't look good. So I don't know what it'll look like. I'm sure the students will probably show up, but season ticket holders, maybe not so much.
Yeah. What do you think, David?
Unfortunately, Big C is probably right on this one. The fair weather fan has already checked out. The diehards seem to be the only ones that are left, and that's unfortunate. We've got a whole lot more of a balance of the fair weather fan these days than we do the diehards. But your team is still playing, and they're playing their biggest rival. So what's your excuse? It's a Thursday night, big deal. It's been on the schedule since July. Figure it out. That's my take.
I agree with that. I do think though, at some point you do get, because I talk with different levels of fandom, whether it's your fair weather fan or your hardcore fan, between the portal, new players, injuries, losses, staff turnover, like all this stuff, eventually like you do get worn down a little bit.
You do. And I'm not immune to that argument by any stretch, and agree with a good bit of it. I mean, there is no continuity in the fan experience anymore, or it's dwindling. I'll say that. Burning. There I am. All right. So on the other hand, though, I think sometimes it might be. I feel like the argument goes in a variety of directions. There are fans that seem to be upset that App's not getting more national television opportunities. This is one. Want to see, the premier Sun Belt game. Well, this is a Thursday night against your rival. I know it's not Thanksgiving weekend, but they picked Thursday night against your rival, right? It's not a Tuesday, it's not a Wednesday, and it's been on the schedule for a while. So they're it's kind of like pick your decision. What's your decision? Are you upset at the state of the program, state of college athletics, state of college football? Okay, that's an argument, and that's a well-founded one. If you're upset that your team's playing a national game against its arch rival on a Thursday night on a beautiful night in November, stop posting online, because it just doesn't compute. That is you're either going to be a fan for your team no matter what, or you're not. So just the true fans hopefully will show up. I think the students will be there. It'll be an App Georgia Southern game, and those are always memorable. So if you want to go out on this one, this is a good one to go out on. Those last two games on the schedule. You got Marshall, but that Arkansas State game may be a little tough with the Thanksgiving weekend, of course. Depends on what you're playing for, but you're talking about taking a step toward bowl eligibility with this game. So be there, you know. Six win team still goes to the same bowl game that you would have as an 8-win team or a 9-win team. Let's be honest about that as well.
Yeah. I've never really understood or agreed with the sentiment that, you know, we need national exposure, we need to get on TV. I've never understood that. I mean, that's fine. Like I'm not opposed to that happening or a game getting picked up, but I've never understood that. Like to me, what matters most to me is like who we're playing. That matters to me, what time it is. But the draw, like, hey, we need to be on TV for who? Like, like we get paid the same. We're getting paid the same amount of money from the Sun Belt or ESPN or whatever, whether we play 1 weeknight game, 2 weeknight games, whether we play Georgia Southern or Monroe. Like, who cares? Like whether we're playing, it doesn't matter. We're gonna get our ESPN Plus people that are watching from afar. And so what if we're on ESPN2 on, you know, I don't know. I've never understood that. I don't know if you guys feel different about that, but that has never moved the needle.
I think it was a little different when you were winning 10, 11 games at a clip and you got a chance to put that brand on national TV and win the water cooler game, which, you know, from a fan's perspective has always been important. And there's a place for that, certainly. If your team goes and boat races your arch rival on Thursday night, you know, there'll be some emails sent out by some App fans on Friday morning to belabor that point, right? Especially if you happen to be a fan of another team that's not doing so well. I do get there's certainly the football side of the necessity to be nationally exposed. The problem is that unfortunately App has been exposed in a few of those games, and it's leaving a sour taste in the experience. I didn't really necessarily hear people clamoring too much about, oh, these games don't really matter back in 14, 15, 16, 17, when you were killing people in these games and they were raising the profile of the program. So, you know, now it takes, you know, I personally am a fan of the ESPN Plus games. You know, why not? But no, I'll be in the stands Thursday night, man. I mean, it's going to be a fun one, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to seeing what this last little 10-day break period is going to bring. Different players that may be featured now, kind of getting close to that red shirt window. Yeah. So coaching staff's got some decisions to make. It'll be interesting to see what they do with those.
You know what's also just about your point, David, about it's been on the calendar since July, blah, 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 blah. There's no matchup where all bets are off. You know, like you don't know what you're going to find. I think back to 2013 when we were terrible and Georgia Southern had they beaten at that point? I don't think they had beaten Florida at that point. I think they had beat them later, and it doesn't matter.
They beat them later in the year, not at the end of the year, but later in the year.
Yeah. But I remember we were hopping along. We were not doing well. And everyone's like, oh, here we go, you know, and we hang, what was it? It was like 45-14. It was a bad lopsided win where man, there's nothing like being bad and then winning a game you weren't really supposed to, and you played really, really well. And I understand people still talk to us and bring up last year's South Alabama game, which you have to search far and wide the last 5 years for playing worse and more uninspired than that last year. But this game shows us that it doesn't matter who's good, who's not good, or whatever. These are games where anything can happen. Yeah. So
well, and I think you still have. I do not subscribe to the you don't have anything to play for argument. You're still playing for bowl eligibility.
Yeah,
and
100%.
you got good shots at winnable games left. I don't think there's a game that's left on the schedule that App shouldn't be either favored in or closely. You know, it should be a toss up kind of thing. You know, there's well, I take that back. Maybe James.
Yes. Okay.
Forgot about that one. But hey, that's the game that over the years, you know, there's always the one, right? Now, I don't know whether that travels as much coaching staff to coaching staff, but I think all of us that have watched this thing for a few decades know that there's always one. There's always that one game where it all comes together, and it usually is in a big situation. And that was James Madison a couple of years ago. So why not? But you know, back to the argument, you got 3 shots out of 4 games left that you ought to be the favored team. You got something to play for. You need 2 more wins to get this staff in its transition into a game that, you know, I think that maybe, just maybe, there might have been a little bit of spoilage there in winning this thing year after year after year. And, other teams try to do it too. And right now in the cycle of things, this team is in a spot. I don't know whether they're on their way down or they're on their way up. I think that varies week to week. Sometimes it looks pretty good, and other times it does not look very good. But that's transitional football right now, and that's the reality of the situation. Is that in a 50 new players and a brand new staff, if you're sitting there with a chance to go to the postseason, that should be celebrated.
Yeah.
Not everybody can pull that off. And the fact that these guys are still hanging in there and relevant means something.
Yeah. We've said it all year. Like, you take it a game at a time. You don't know what you're going to get at the beginning of the year because, nothing's being told or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, we're at a point now where it will be a positive accomplishment if you get to 6 wins and you have the chance to go to playoff. And have a little pride in that. And I do think that, and I've been banging this drum, but, we just don't understand how difficult it is to win and to sustain crazy amounts of success. So when you're able to hold on to it with a lot of turnover, you need to appreciate it. And Coach Loggins has had a tall task. The roster's had a tall task, and we certainly want us to hit that 6-win mark, especially being at one point 4-2. It's not going to be easy though, but right. I think we do need to support our team. And I think if you were going to make it would be James Madison or Coastal or Georgia Southern to really have a midweek game worth, like, all right, we know that one's going to be a juicy one versus, and I know they wore us out last year, but like South Alabama doesn't really move the needle on a weeknight, but this one should. And historically.
Yeah. And I think the last point I'll make to this is that, the danger of the comparison game, and I know we've talked about this for years on this show, and you guys talk about it a lot, of the what's the better team, who's the better player, who's the best all time, all that. Yeah. I think maybe more than ever, you really have to compare right now to just right now, because the rules are so vastly different. And if you go comparing what transition looked like under Satterfield or under Eli even, those things are just the nature of the beast was so incredibly different. Now when you're stacking new staff, NIL responsibilities, I'll call it, facility responsibilities still, and a new roster and all those things, I don't think that the nature of how Coach Loggins and his staff are ultimately being graded out is the same curriculum that was used certainly for Jerry, but for Sat.
Yeah. Okay. You buffered a little bit there, so we're caught back up.
You got the point.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this. I know I'm taking a slight detour because from an historical perspective, I'm just curious because I was looking kind of at the matchup over the years between Georgia Southern and Appalachian. I know I have another question here about this game, but I do want to ask you, David, because at this point I was an 18-year-old fan sitting in the stands, and Charles was in his early 40s, I think, at this point. But when Georgia Southern and App played in 2007, and that was the year Armani threw those 2 picks early in the first half, they ended the streak. They ended the home winning streak. I think we've gone into more detail. It's been a minute since we've gone into more detail. But at that point, Armani was coming back from that shoulder strain. That was still battling part of that injury at that point. Was that not right?
Yeah, he was.
Yes. If memory serves, Big C, did he not start that game, or was that the first one that he did start? I can't remember.
He started that game, and we went down 14-0 real quick, and then that's what Georgia Southern wants to do, and that's what they love. And then Trey Elder played a lot in the middle.
That's right.
I don't think Trey.
He didn't finish it.
I don't think Trey finished it, right? No, Armani came in on like the last drive.
No, Armani was on the field at the end.
Yeah, Armani was on the last drive and ran out of bounds. Time running out. Thought he could get to the sideline, but couldn't. But Trey got us back in the game. And so that certainly was tough. So
yeah, Jason Foster. I just remember watching Jason Foster. He had 20 carries, 175 yards, a touchdown.
And they were miserable the year before that. They were better in 2007 and got good again but that year under what's his name? Oh gosh,
Vander or
Actor.
something.
Vander. Yeah.
Brian Van Warder.
Brian Van Warder.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, they were terrible. And
They were bad.
And then that set up that great game, in 08 down there too. And there were some good ones for sure, right there in that stretch.
I'm pretty sure that this is true. So like within a month, we lost to Wofford in 2007 on September 22nd, and then lost to Georgia Southern on October 20th. So within a month is when Armani Edwards lost his only conference games in his career. Within a month, it's kind of wild. We have another question about this game here from Sanch.
Yeah, boy, I bet they were tearing him up on the cabin.
Who?
Oh,
It was the
man.
Delphi boards back then, wasn't it? It was like the
Probably,
yeah, it was. I
probably.
think it was still Delphi.
yeah, that was old school. Wow. Yeah, those AOL internet discs were burning up after that one. This is from Sanch on the Twitters. With the stakes of a nationally televised game at home facing our inferior rival, and after the collapse versus Coastal, is this a must-win for Loggins? Chances of a ball game look slim to none if we don't get a dub here. So, David, you just said this. I think this is true. And Charles, like this year, we have gone one game at a time, just kind of like breaking it down. But I think as far as must-win, Charles, must-win to me, that's must-win is heavy language for the era we're in a first-year situation. What do you think?
I think this just goes along with what we've been talking about all year, and how we prognosticated this season. In August is we kind of alluded to somewhere around 6-6 being some type of successful season, and of course during the course of that you're going to have a couple games that may be weird and the ball bounces the wrong way, and I think that's happened to us twice. I think it happened to us at Old Dominion. I think it happened to us against Southern Miss. So could we easily be 6-2 or 5-3? Yeah. And then, of course, if that narrative changes, you don't need a must-win game. You don't talk about that if you're in that situation. But 4-4 certainly feels like 4-4 with a 2-game slide feels bad. Like you feel like we need to go get this one. We need to get right. I'm not putting it in must-win category, but man, you'll feel a lot better about getting the 6 if you can get this one. And I think 6 wins is where you probably are putting that barometer on, like, was this successful? We could certainly be. Nobody's going to feel like they were successful if we went 5-7, right? And no one's going to be like, "Great, man, we are on the way up." It's just it's the perspective of it. But if we're 6-6 and we play a ball game and win a ball game, that looks a lot different. So I just don't call it must win, but it does feel like it should because the opportunity is there. This is a Georgia Southern team who's very, very bad on defense. They haven't beaten anybody all year. I mean, Georgia State, that's not hard. They beat Maine. That's an FCS game. And then they got Jacksonville State. So not a lot to be said for as far as those opponents go. But I'm not buying I'm selling the must win, but I understand where people are coming from.
So this is something that I think we're in the territory now, Charles, where – and you had said this at the beginning back in August, like you can't say 6-6 is successful unless you know how the season went. And I think at this point, I think we are in a position where if we do go 6-6, I think we can check the box to say wasn't a failure, wasn't an overwhelming success, but we're at 4-4. We're staring at a really hard 4-game stretch. Let's say that Georgia Southern will be included in that hard game stretch because this is a rivalry game. You never know what's going to happen, even though they're bad to your point. But then past that, then it looks really slim because all those teams that we have left on the schedule, James Madison especially being above, Marshall and Arkansas State, they are clearly playing better and they've had better season than us. I think now is where it's determined. Like the next 4 games will determine. And if we do go 6-6, I think it's good.
Yeah, and I think you're close there. I think it's still a lot to unfold if we go beat Georgia Southern and then James Madison in one of those classic throughout the records games, which I think was what James Madison's becoming, just like Georgia Southern. Just doesn't have the history there like Georgia Southern. But if we go 6-6 and lose the last 2 at home, that is not going to feel good.
Yeah, that's true.
People will not like that. So we'll get there when we get there. We'll cross that bridge. But I think Georgia Southern, we certainly need it, but it's not must win.
What do you think, David?
Yeah, I think that there's some ifs that still rest out there. I mean, what's the offensive line going to look like?
Mhm.
What's quarterback play going to look like? Is Debinion healthy, and what will he look like in the last month if he is versus if he's not? And there are a lot of offensive question marks that are out there. I think that DJ's crew has been you know certainly their trajectory has gone a different way than I think you would have thought that it did, sitting at 4-2. That said, they've also got some depth issues and have seen some attrition on that side of the football in some meaningful spots.
Mhm.
So I think that goes back to transition again, and I'd go back to saying in a year one, 6-6, I think is especially anymore. Again, I continue to go back to that. Anymore, 6-6 has got to be, where the floor starts for acceptable, right? And how that story gets told ultimately will shape how you feel about it at the end of the year. But I think the simple fact is that right now you're sitting in 2 straight losses with some guys that aren't on the defensive side of the football anymore. You got a banged up offensive line and quarterback play that's been up and down, partially due to injury. So
Yeah.
this program is not what it was 5 years ago in terms of depth. It can't be anymore, and probably won't be for a while. That's every G5 program in America. So what will be interesting to see is if next year we were in the same boat, how does this roster look different? Let's
Mhm.
say that you're sitting at 4-4 next year. What are the different chapters of that story? Is it about, again, thin depth and attrition? Well, then there's then you can start. I think I'd start to raise the side eye a little bit differently than I would in year one right now. So, but I do agree with Charles in that this one sets up 6 better. It's the more winnable game of the 4, I think. And I also don't think that App fans want to go into week 12 needing a win. That has not been a good script for this program in the past.
Yeah, that's been 22 and 24. That's exactly what it was. Go to the final game, you need it, and you drop it. Actually, I think over time, over the last decade of the show, I think we've done a pretty good job. Not going over it with a fine tooth comb. Injuries are like laying at the feet. The outcome of our season. Like, oh, we got really hurt. You just mentioned something, David. There have been 3 defensive linemen that are not on the team anymore. Like, that have been removed, that were getting meaningful reps. We have 3 starting offensive linemen on a position that let's just be honest, weren't, that was not an elite offensive line to begin with. And we have 3 starting offensive linemen that aren't there anymore. And so I think that and there might be a year that I'm forgetting some key injuries or whatever, but this season does seem to me to stand out with attrition, whether it's kids have been removed from the team and not just your third string wide receiver getting in trouble and we never hear about it, but we've lost some depth too on top of the transfers in the offseason, to where I can't really think of a time where we've gone into the last stretch of the season down 3 starting offensive linemen and losing so many pieces on that front 7 down the home stretch. So I think
Yeah.
that might be part of the narrative that I maybe have undervalued. I don't know what you
Well,
guys
and
think about
and
that.
regardless of how the narrative reaches to that point, I think one of the things that I know Avery and I talked about week one was, this season to us was going to be told in the trenches, and if
Yeah.
App could be stronger, both from a true physical standpoint, but also a schematic standpoint in the offensive and defensive lines, that would dictate how they would ultimately finish this season off. You're talking about a couple of really experienced defensive players that are not with the team anymore, and that's no secret to anybody, right? I mean that has happened, but you couple that with, I think, a growing trend that I think we can expect to see until Coach Loggins and crew figure out the way around this reality. I think the reality is that offensive linemen are going to be hard to come by in the portal. And if you develop one at this level that's got any kind of upward trajectory, we have seen evidence of that. They're going to get poached because that is a premium position in the get well now category.
Yeah.
So, that has always, been a position of strength for us. I'll say always, going back the decades that we've been around this. App has turned off NFL caliber offensive line. There's still a couple in the league right now, right?
Yep.
But it's going to be a thinner group, I think, moving forward. I think if Dowell Loggins knew going into each year that he had 8 guys that he could feel comfortable about playing meaningful minutes in that position group, he would consider himself lucky, not necessarily with a bounty, but certainly on the plus side of that cache of great assets. Where I think some coaches are going to have to say, man, we got 7 dudes and we're going to have to, over the season, develop the other 3 to give us a true 2 deep. And I think that's going to be the reality for G5 teams moving forward until something gets figured out or the adjustment to the adjustment is made by coaches throughout the country.
Yeah. If you look at the commit list, there's, I think, 6 offensive linemen on there from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's right. I would do, because the reality is you have 2 paths. One, you recruit some guys and say, we're going to do the best we can to coach you up and we want to see you in the field at least for a little bit. Or you get guys that, I mean this with all due respect, but that couldn't play at the Auburns or the Virginia Techs or whatever, and you got to have them come down. And you will have to have a mix of that. The plug and play is just reality. You're never going to get away from it. You lose a senior left tackle, you can't just replace him with a redshirt freshman. Or maybe, I mean, that'd be great, but then that redshirt left tackle is probably gone the next year.
Yeah.
But I think you need a healthy mix, but I think you start now. And I think I'm encouraged with Coach Loggins having those commit lists or having so many high school offensive linemen committed, because I think that, that's been an underserved element over the last 5 years. Clearly, I mean, the numbers show that.
Well, and that's the thing that we don't know about this staff, right? Because they have not been a staff somewhere else. We can't point back to his track record of recruiting and developing players at certain position groups because he's never done it before. But what you can do is point to the track record of, yes, he continues to say at every press conference, every time he's near a microphone, maybe he talks into his car this way too. He says, we are about recruiting.
Yeah.
He's shown that they're about recruiting, right? But what I like that. What I really can't wait to see, and it'll take us a year to get to this point, but if we met up on November 2nd of 2026, I'd love to see evidence of the development side of it, because that means 2 things. 1, he's getting guys to stay.
Yep.
And 2, he's got coaches that are pouring the right message into these guys to make them want to get better. And that is not necessarily the formula at every school anymore. It's just, hey, let me get you in there and get you out of here just as fast. And I think he's trying to sell something different, and time's going to ultimately tell whether he's successful with that pursuit.
Yeah, I agree. We're not going to be able to see everything. Looks on the front end looks good, but I agree, David. I think you got to see how that shakes out on the back end. Charles, I got a basketball question here on Twitter, and then we'll move on to. I don't think we have that much on Facebook either, but I do have one question. I think this is going to be in Facebook too, but I'll just go ahead and ask it here. This is from Reynolds Seaton. How do we feel about Brendan Harrington being on Southern's roster? He said Clay Helton is the best coach he's ever played for. Thoughts?
You know what he's trying to do here. I think we're not. None of us are that dumb. Have fun with it, Brandon. But he's the one who's got to come here and face the music. And by goodness, let me say, if he makes a boneheaded play on Thursday, he will hear it all night long. And I have a feeling, that it may not be super loud boos or whatever, or you want to call it, but people will be on notice. And I'm not trying to amplify that either. It's, when you poke the bear, don't be mad when he, goes through your trash can.
I hope he's healthy. And he's able to play the game that he wants to play. Let's not forget that for 12 years that he was here, it felt like that every one of us was in that, man, what a tough break mode. It's still the same kid. He might be wearing different colors this time, and that's his choice, and he'll wear that appropriately. But I hope that he's able to play the game that I'm sure he wants to come back here and play. I just hope App's better.
Yeah, I think this is a little undersold, to be honest with you, because this is we may not see a situation like this ever again, where we have a kid he was here from 2019. He spent all this time, and he's good enough to go somewhere else where someone else wants him to be a starting. Whatever. I don't think we'll maybe see that again from a sheer number of years perspective. Because I think he got here in 19, right, or 20.
Yeah, it was
No, he
Drink
was
was
19.
yeah,
He
Drink
was
was
part of
the
Drinkwood's team.
yeah, he was the guy that Drink was like, I made sure I got this guy. And we were all really excited about that. But there's a lot of factors as to why he's down in Statesboro. So
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Let's not assume that this is all a negative thing. Kid's got to make a decision. He wanted to play football for another year, and that was his way to do it.
Yeah, no,
because I'm not meaning to sound like I'm fussing at you, AJ, at all. but just to those out there who want to be mean about it, you can still have fun, between the lines, right? And then say, and then have a lot of people probably dap them up after the game's over, because that's probably what's going to happen. There's a lot of friends on the other sideline. That's part of it now.
It is really interesting, though, that the portal has brought up this thing that used to be such a rarity because you had to sit out because there was such a penalty against it. But now that you see guys going conference to conference, I mean, Billy Wiles being on this roster, it is still like every time I see it, I'm like, that's crazy, and Aaron Banks playing basketball. We have in Georgia Southern, we certainly need to bring that up, right?
Yeah.
But those I think are again some of those unintended consequences, and maybe not all of them are bad, but they're just different. And I think that's what's got people so worked up about that kind of stuff. It's different that Harrington can go to your arch rival and go play, but he's not going to be the last Sunbelt player that transfers to a Sunbelt rival. He just happens to be the first one that we feel something about.
Yeah. And ultimately, this gives us something to feel. And that's what I'm saying. This is underrated. It's something to
That's
feel.
why you show up Thursday night instead of staying home and watch the game.
That is exactly my point. It's something to get your heart broken over, something to plant your flag in the ground, no pun intended there, but it's something to get worked up about one way or the other. The reason why sports is great is because you are kind of putting yourself out there to be rewarded and happy or heartbroken. And for Brent Harrington, he could be we want him ultimately, God bless. I want to be healthy too. I want him to be heartbroken after that game. I want him to lose. But there's an opportunity for him to break our hearts too, and him make a post after the game and say, whatever he's going to say. But that's just how you roll the dice with sports. And that's why I'm saying this is a little undersold because I agree everything, Charles, what you said. He wanted to go play football. That was the opportunity for him to do that. But this could be a really cool kind of thing that we're probably not going to see a lot of going forward. Like I said, with a kid that was just here for so long. And about Aaron Banks, real quick. So this is just a funny story. So my son is, he's a little boy, he's obsessed with sports. And we were at the tip-off dinner, and they announced Aaron Banks, and so, all right, it was Aaron Banks. And then my son was at the tip-off dinner with me. He taps me and he says, "Hey, Aaron Banks." I was like, "Okay, what? All right, Aaron Banks." He's like looking at me like, "Yeah, Aaron Banks, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. What are you talking about?" He said, "Dad, last year you said you never wanted to see Aaron Banks play basketball again." I said, "Really?"
I hope he dives out of bounds and lands in your seat, brother.
He did. He said, you said last year, you said, I never want to see Aaron Banks ever play basketball again.
I love it.
I said, wow, I don't remember saying that.
Mad props for your kid having Sunbelt roster recognition, though.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, he was like, "See, Dad?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And
that's awesome.
He's like, "That's what you said." And I was like, "Okay, well, I believe you. I probably did say it," because he lit us up.
He scored some points against the Apps in his time. The home center had to feel comfortable to him.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, so this is the last question on Twitter. It's a basketball question, kind of. Well, it's related to basketball. It's basketball adjacent. Looking forward to the MAC. This is from Walter Johnson, no relation. And I don't know if it's the ghost of Walter Johnson either, David. Looking forward to the MAC Sunbelt Challenge in basketball. Made me think about doing something like that in football. Obviously, the logistics would be way more difficult. But which conference would be the most fun for the Sunbelt to go against? What do you think, Charles?
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Basically having a MAC Sunbelt Challenge kind of thing in football, hypothetically.
I think you're marrying yourself to something you may not want to be married to. There, it's kind of like an arranged marriage. I like it in basketball because there's so many games, but with only 4 non-conference games in football, I'm not really thrilled about that. It lessens your opportunity to play other games you might want to play when you're like, well, we can't schedule a game with you. You love the MAC, or you love Conference USA, or you want to play Delaware. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of us who still want to play, teams that are on next year's non-conference schedule, such as NC State and things of that nature.
I do think that's an interesting thing to consider if the college football scheduling world continues to go the way that it looks like it's going, and those games are going to get harder to schedule, either through success or through contractual obligations. So, like it or not, G5 schools may have to consider some things like that, or alliances in the future. I think if we're going to be completely sarcastic about it, how about we play a return to sender game, and everybody in the league has to play somebody from the conference they came from?
That would be a great idea.
I would love that, man. I would be here for that week. App State Western. That could be the game that starts it off. Let's have, JMU and Elon, and let's go down. That we could make this right now.
That's great.
If you're going to play those games, but I do think this. As much as I say that tongue in cheek, if you've got to play those games, you need to figure out a hook. Right. Because there's going to come a point in time, I do believe that scheduling is going to get harder. I mean, I know you guys have talked to Doug about that. And if you're going to sell pizzazz, right, you got to figure out a way to do it. And that might be a way, as long as you win them. Right. I think the Sun Belt wants to go 10-4 in that stretch.
Yeah.
So be careful. Be careful.
I know we've talked about those kind of things in other scenarios, such as G5 playoffs and stuff like that. It may be where we're going, but I think I'll stick to my guns and say let's not volunteer ourselves for that too early if we can avoid it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's cool to play Akron just for kicks and giggles, just to play them, because you can't have every non-conference game against one of those teams.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's a good idea, and I think, David, you're right. You got to find something to put something else in the pot, because you're every year the conferences are getting rated across the board, the cream of the crop's moving on, so you got to find some way to make things interesting, because we've had so many questions. Well, we thought the Sun Belt was good, it's like, well, every first, second, third team player go somewhere else, and we're having to restock every year.
I heard this interesting point from a coach earlier this week. I think that the thing that might push back against that from the coach's perspective is going to be that not all G5 leagues are built the same. And there are some that have made a deeper investment, whether that's in NIL, or maybe they can make that investment in NIL because they don't have as much football dragging them. When you look at the American, you look at some Conference USA schools that do not have that, that weight around their neck, so to speak. That might make an imbalance, that a coach would say, well, we can't match up against the American because those things are resourced differently. I mean, I think that it's been an interesting thing to follow the last few months, is the divide that's starting to occur within G5 itself. There is a difference between the MAC and the Sun Belt, right? We've known that for a while, and it plays out in every Camellia Bowl. But I think those things are going to start to come up, where you start looking at how those leagues are formed, and which ones have basketball, which ones don't, which ones have FCS football, which ones don't. And how they, that plays out maybe a little bit different on the hoop side of things, but on the football side, it's going to be a thing too, and something the Sun Belt's got to be on the front side with moving forward.
Yeah. Speaking of this, real quick before we go into Facebook, David, I do want to know, you're a fan of Western Carolina coming back, right?
Yes, huge fan. Hey, and how about them 5-0 for the first time in league play ever? I believe.
Yeah.
If I heard that right, they play. They play Mercer this weekend, basically for the conference championship.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of the Catamounts finally getting in the playoffs again. It would be great. Their longtime radio voice, Gary Ayers, had a very difficult health setback last year. He's back behind the mic this year, and it'd be great for them to get a chance to ride that out. Go Catamounts.
That's awesome. Can't believe
I'm going to throw up now, but yeah, go Catamounts.
We're gonna record that. We should see Charles right now.
I'm gonna go ahead and since this is sitting here, and I don't want to talk any more about Western Carolina football on this podcast, Evan Buchanan asked if we should attack the portal and get their quarterback, considering the good year we had with 26 passing touchdowns to 1 interception and a 78% completion rate.
Yes.
Who knows?
Yeah.
You say yes to go after him?
Go get him.
Does that mean we go get him to what? Start next year? Or because that's what you do?
No. I think, and of course, like I'm saying this, talk about tongue in cheek. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen the kid play ever, but I think that you go after and try to out recruit who you got on your roster every year. That's what I think.
I think it brings up an interesting point about the future of App State's QB room. You've had a chance to see Gillen a few times. You've seen, certainly with what you've got coming back, but that's, I don't know that the QB spot is one that you can count on being neutral from a movement standpoint year after year. So yeah, if you got somebody, I think every team, to Alex's point, every team's got to go and get somebody because you're going to need somebody at some point.
He's from Miami.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
He's from Miami here. He's listed online 5'11", 180, which means he's 5'9". Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why he probably didn't get recruited. I mean, really, we're just keeping it real here for a second.
I don't know if that's in Dowell's prototypical wheelhouse for quarterback size.
I think they're on the metric system in Cullowhee still. So are you sure that that's a true 5'9"?
You already said go Catamounts, dude. You can't go back and trash them now.
Go Cats.
Yeah, you can.
Playoff bound. They're going to Nashville, baby. See the FCS title games back in Tennessee this year.
That is cool.
Did not know that.
It was in Frisco up until this year?
Yep. Up in they're going to do it in Nashville this year. And that'll be a different trip for North Dakota State and South Dakota State to make. So it'll be fun.
So you're assuming, we are assuming here in this situation that one of the 3 quarterbacks we've seen play this year for App will not be here next year. Like, I think that is, unless it's not assumed, I think we can guarantee.
Swan is done, right?
I think Swan is done.
We can guarantee that.
Well, yeah, just like Joey was done, right? They're barring some technicality, like he ate a candy bar on Halloween that came from, food services, therefore he gets an extra year of eligibility. Barring one of those kinds of things, I think he's done.
Yeah, I do too.
AJ Swan is listed as a redshirt junior on our roster.
Does that matter anymore?
No, that's why I'm saying, like, does that mean he doesn't have eligibility? I was also under the impression that he had another year. So that's why I was asking that. That's why I was asking that.
Yeah. I mean, redshirt junior does mean he's got another year. I mean,
I think it's safe to assume that based on the way that this year is played out, that one of those 2 guys is not here. If he's indeed got another year of eligibility, which I didn't think he did, I think it's safe to assume that, just in the way the world works. What situation have you seen a circumstance where 2 guys have played and both of them came back in this world? That's what this is supposed to be for, right? For guys to get opportunities to go other places,
And that's what I was getting at.
I think
long story short.
Yeah, I think that the question that will be interesting to see play out in the spring once they bring in who they've got is, who does this staff envision from a skills perspective? What kind of quarterback do they want? Because I think it's also safe to assume that they might not have that guy right now in terms of, pulling the levers and pushing the buttons the way he would like to in this offense. Do they, they don't have Denora Sellers, right? So is this the best that they could do this year? And what does that look like if they've got a chance to overhaul that? That's going to be a really interesting development, I think, going into this.
He's got another year. Charles is right. He played 2 games at LSU. So his freshman, sophomore year, 22 and 23 at Vanderbilt.
So you got that red shirt. Gotcha.
Well, I guess so. So, all right. So there's nothing from 2021 listed. So on a stat sheet. So does that mean he redshirted and he was or did he play as a freshman at Vanderbilt in 22? I don't know.
Trying to think of there could be a COVID year still in there too, because that there was a COVID year that got applied. I feel like the 21s got some sort of treatment as well. Long story short is it's complicated, right? But
it appears that he has a year somewhere.
No, he does. All right, so I just looked this up. He does. He was a true freshman in 22. and he redshirted, so he does have another year. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, it would be
There we go.
surprising. I agree with David. I think it would be surprising if JJ and AJ were both on our roster next year.
Maybe DJ Uyunglele could be here, and we could have an AJ. We could have all the J's.
Lots of J's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's
That
got
one's-
another year left. Right? Should be.
I'm going to move to Jay Neal to break this up a little bit. College football, WTF, why the face? Good teams lose to bad teams. Who knows one week to another? Feels like this week was one of those. Like this was a good week to not be playing, right? Because we saw a lot of stuff happen this week, and that in college football, if you watch AJ, I'm not sure if you do or not, where some teams beat teams that shouldn't have, or on paper shouldn't have. So yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes to our question from before about getting up for, or the topic at least, of getting up for this game, right? Like, why not get up for it? NC State's probably going nowhere, but what'd they do? They beat Georgia Tech and they rushed the field and they took their fine and they're happy about it, right?
Yep.
And I would love to be in that position, except taking the fine, because we need that for NIL funds.
Goes back to the decree of not rushing the field.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, this has been said over and over again, but the depth across the top is just not there anymore. It's been spread out. And so, I don't know. I think we're seeing that all the time. Is there a team
this week?
Say what?
Sat got thumped. Cincinnati was, man, they were making some noise. They were in the kind of on that first bubble tier of playoff consideration, and that's probably done now.
Yeah, they played 11 o'clock, and
well, they played they lost to a ranked team. So I mean, they stayed in the top 25, but that's it's a lot of room to climb with not a lot of room to get there. They'd have to win. They'd have to win out, and that would be beating BYU twice probably.
Yeah, anything can happen. I mean, that's they were 11.5-point dogs, long road trip and late kick. And I was actually surprised to see them stay ranked. That tells you a lot about where college football is too, is that like people didn't really take that too hard on them. Like, hey, it's very clear how difficult of a game that was. You're walking into a haunted house if we must.
Well, and they were a half. I mean, they were a play away from being undefeated going into that game too. I mean,
of course.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that there is a clear, so like growing up, you know, I mean, in the 2000s, you would have like USC clearly is just better than everybody else, Miami, and then Texas or whatever. And then the Saban years, like Alabama, just clearly better than everybody else. Do you think that exists today? I mean, Indiana's plowing everybody they play.
I was about to say Kurt Cignetti would lead you to believe it does.
Yeah, but I mean, they are, and they're beating to death everybody they play. Ohio State, certainly. I mean, they're beating to death everybody they play. Do you think that it's like the amount of times that we see clearly that is just the cream of the crop, no one else is close? Or do you think that no one is too far away from getting humbled?
I think it's any day, any circumstance.
I think
Alabama lost to Florida State in opening week, and everybody thought the end of the world down in Tuscaloosa, and they haven't lost since. Texas A&M, who it seemed like long ago we beat, and all of a sudden you make the right coaching change, and you're 8-0, and you're number 3 and in the driver's seat. I think Ole Miss is good on any given day. I think Oregon is really good on any given day. Texas Tech certainly has the offense, but it's just there's no one you're like, man, because like if Virginia is 8-1 and they're 12th in the country, are like, where are we? If Louisville's 14th at 7-1, where are we? Vanderbilt's at the top 15. On and on. Yet Miami, Florida, the Hurricanes were like considered like, man, a really, really, really good team early in the year, and then you're on the wrong end of a tough game in Texas this week, and here you are. I mean, there's a lot of good teams. There's not a lot of great teams.
Yeah.
Taylor Lamb for president.
Happy for him and that team. Really, I'm really glad he's getting to experience that. It's really cool.
And they needed to win this year, and they've won. I think they've exceeded expectations already. I mean, they just needed to have a good year, and they've had a great year. But I don't know that the conferences have Like I still think Ohio State and Indiana so far have played their way to like I think there's a 1 and 2, and then there's a step down to the rest. And I'd
Okay.
include Texas A&M in that group right now because I don't know that the SEC has looked the greatest this year. Maybe lived up to their level of play at least at the top. If you got Vanderbilt in that conversation, that means if the FCC is going to be good, they need Florida to be relevant. They need they need some of those. Kentucky needs to be better. They need to have some of those bellwether teams being consistent, and they just don't right now. So, jury's out. Kurt Signetti, vice president to Taylor Lamb.
Dude, he's a dude. I don't like him. He's a butthole.
I know, man.
He's a dude.
You know who he is? He's got a lot of Paul Johnson when he was at Georgia Southern in him. Man, he said stuff that just got under your skin, and you were fired up, and then you'd look up, and he's like 10-1.
Yeah. Give us an example of, because you would never think that Paul Johnson was like that.
Man, Paul Johnson's only like that. I mean, just Google Paul Johnson controversial comments.
Did you just say Google Paul Johnson in reference to a conversation started about Kurt Signetti? Google me. Google me.
Yes. Now, Paul Johnson was always, man, he would just say, yeah, he was a brash guy, man. I mean, he was confident is what he was. He was confident in that style that they had was superior. And back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when App and Georgia Southern were playing those top 10 matchups all the time, an App would come in there with their App ways about, well, we're going to get you this time. And you're like, whatever, bring it. And then they'd throw 50 on us and send us back down the road, and Adrian Peterson had run for 200 yards, and and he just had this smirk on his face about it. I feel that way about Signetti. When you got Paul Johnson, it felt good. It felt really good. And then I'm sure anybody that could put Signetti in that category right now would feel pretty good.
He's a Yankee Spurrier. That's what he is.
But he's successful.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, you got to win to back it up.
Google me.
Did they have the Google back during Paul Johnson's time? I think that might have still been accessible off AOL.
That's when Amazon was selling books.
Dial up your Prodigy and then go to the search bar.
Yeah, that's right.
Paul Johnson.
Oh, you want another question? Yeah, great. Look at me.
We're talking about too much Georgia Southern and catamounts for Charles.
It's what is this? Locked on the SoCon. This is the last one actually, and it's from Stephen Pennell. We lead all of FBS in a category, drop passes, with this critical information that our coaches have at their fingertips. We continue to throw the ball substantially more than we run the ball. Why do you think we don't run the ball more when our leading rusher averages 5.5 yards per carry?
Well, you can't drop a pass if you don't throw it to them. So there's
that's what an offensive coordinator who likes to pass would say. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What is it?
It brings up an interesting point though. Back at the very beginning of the year, you heard Dowell say that his preference was to pass first and run second.
Yep.
To spread things out, and then when it was time to put the victory cigar in, then you go run that thing down and call it good. It hasn't necessarily played out like that. Now there's been some coming from behind that certainly plays into it. I think that goes back to the offensive line some too. They're better pass blocking than they are run blocking. And look at DeBinion's lack of consistency. Now I say this about a guy that's leading, the conference and one of the top 5 in the country in rushing, but that hasn't been linear. And what I mean by that is he's banged up and you can't protect him. So if you can't, you got to sling it. And unfortunately you got, some injury in that position there as well. I just don't know that the formula has worked out the way that he would want it to. I think that if you said to him week 1, this is what your stats are going to look like week, whatever this is, 9. I don't think that I think you'd have to do some explaining to him to tell him how it got that way. Because I don't think this was the intention by any stretch.
I don't even know if we're necessarily better at pass blocking than run blocking, because a lot of these are quick passes. They're getting the ball out quick, and those tend to be, you got to time it. And I'm not trying to make excuses for drop passes, because we do have, and they've been inexcusable. I mean, if it's in the hands, you need to catch it. But I think you're right, David, about your linear comment. I mean, you can't just say, well, look, he's one of the top rushers in the country. But if you really look at what's happened, the offensive line is getting more dinged up. They're getting less effective. He's a hard physical runner. He's getting more hurt. This is kind of happening in a way that we were all worried about, right? Like he put up 200 yards, 100 yards. And you're like, oh, look at this dude. His arm's hurting. You know, the line's getting worse. He's getting touched behind the line of scrimmage before, and so that, you got to get rid of the ball. And I actually think that's where actually Swan, he's turning the ball over, and I'm not trying to like re-legislate that. But Swan is actually better, I think, at the quick pass game than Cole was. But if time's closing in and you got to get rid of that ball or whatever, you're going to have higher risk of drop passes and incompletions and maybe interceptions. But I actually think Coach Logan's play design, like I don't think it's bad. I think he's doing what he can with what we have. But yeah, we can't look at Rashad Dubinion and say we need to use one of the best rushers in the league because we have to go on week by week. He's not healthy. Yeah. Offensive lines, it's not helping him.
Yeah, and I also don't know that drop passes tell the full story either. And we've heard some references, from the coaching staff over the years over this year that it may be some of those drops may come from guys not being where they were supposed to be in the first place. Yeah. That's again transitional offense a little bit there. Now you would like to see those things smoothing themselves out rather than rearing their heads a little bit more frequently in week 8 and 9. Than I think these last 2 weeks have shown us for sure. But I think I've thought for a while now, if you could take the two quarterbacks and merge them into one, I think you would have what you would need, because I do think that Swan is better at the quick release. He's got a little bit quicker vision for the short range passing game. And that's kind of what this offense is set up for. Yeah. But Cole is also better off the sprint. He's got that burst about him that is just a little bit harder to defend. But when you don't have an offensive line that can give him enough time to check down, go, it's hard for him to bring that element to his game consistently. So, I think that both guys are probably playing a little bit like if you said that 1 to 10 being their max skills, giving their max performance. I don't think either would agree that they're at a 10 right now. I think they're, because of either injury or the circumstances, they're probably around a 7 or 8, both of them. But if you put them together, maybe that would equal 10. I don't know. They just seem to be. I think there's more to it than just receiver play. I think it's the whole thing, and we've seen that across the board all year.
Yeah, this is our adjustment, in my opinion, to NFL style play calling. It is not set up the same way as it does in college. So. DJ makes a great point. It's just because we assume that a receiver dropped the ball, that everything went right except the receiver catching it. And that's not always the case. Maybe the quarterback threw it late. Maybe the quarterback threw it early. Maybe the guy did a 4-yard in and should have done a 5-yard in, and he should have been in a different spot. And that's why the ball is behind him. There's just so much more chemistry that has to go on. And that's what happens in the NFL. Like those dudes know, they throw into tighter spaces than college quarterbacks do. And so when that transitions down, you would imagine like, oh, those guys should be schemed more open, right? Because, you don't have the talent in the NFL or in college football like you do in the NFL as far as like coverage, like nickel corners and DBs and all that good stuff, even linebackers for that matter. And I also think there's another part of that. It's just like the scheme, and not to say the scheme, but it's like the design. How do you set up your third down play? Like, some of these coordinators call plays backwards. Like this is our set of downs, but we're setting up for what our third down play could be. It's not just it's 1st and 10, let's get 5 yards. It's 2nd and 5, let's get 5 yards, or whatever. Sometimes you call a play that you don't intend for it to be successful, so you could be successful on the next one. I know we've all heard Bill Belichick say it's like, we put 5 or 6 dummy plays on tape every game and not run them again for 7 weeks. Just so they have to think about it. And I'm pretty sure he's got that head to him. So
and I think the interesting thing about that, Charles, and you bring up a tremendous point, because watching the Panthers fully manhandle the Packers today, and I say that tongue in cheek, but what a great win. But I watched that game thinking, man, this is more reminiscent of the college game that we see week to week. It's not necessarily the game that we have grown up watching Appalachian play, but it does look like quick pass plays, quarterback that's got to make a quick read, or an offensive line that can get, as Love was chased twice today, like dude right in his face, like the wrong slide at the line at the wrong time puts an NFL quarterback in a tremendous period of time. And how many times have we seen that with an app quarterback this year, where it's the wrong read up front that puts them in the run for your life situation? I'll take it back to Joey Aguilar last year versus the year before. Offensive line play did not allow him to have the year that he had the year prior. He was on skates for a good bit of last year, and that does not help. But that's one. Does that mean that Joey Aguilar wasn't as good, or does that mean that the circumstances around him did not take full advantage of the skill set that he's got? And I think that we're kind of in that different kind of offense. But I'll say this too. I think you got to be real careful in this whole let's bring everything about the NFL and a college football thing.
Yes.
NFL guys are older. They've got minds that have been around the game for a while, and we know how long it takes even a rookie to get assimilated into that style of football, right? I don't necessarily know that every 18-year-old kid is going to be able to execute that same set of plays and that same philosophy. Not saying that you've got to dumb it down, but I think you've got to create a version of that is attainable for younger players, and it can certainly have characteristics without question. But kind of go back to that whole conversation that I know we've had about. You mentioned Jason Capel earlier. I thought that one of the things that Coach Capel's staff struggled to do was, because they were all such elite players themselves. Bobby Coomer played at Charlotte at a time where Charlotte was rolling, and Capel was obviously a blue chip guy, as was Justin Gainey. Kellen Sampson's, still doing it, right? Those guys were used to a different athlete. And I don't know that they ever made that adjustment to the athlete they could get it at versus the athlete that they played alongside. And they spoke a different language. And I do think that's part of the reason that they struggled, was that they were expecting something that was not going to come to them. Instead of coaching the deficiency, it was more about what they couldn't do.
Yep.
And I think that language, it's a language thing. You've got to find a way to make sure that this can be translated to a kid that's fresh off of throw the ball up in the air and I'm going to be the tallest guy on the field and catch it and run, and I'll have 300 yards of receiving a night because I'm the best person in my county, and that's going to get me my scholarship. It's different. And you make it too unattainable. Dale Jones used to talk about that all the time. He would say back in his defensive coordinator days, when they'd make an adjustment, it'd usually be like, well, we got too complicated and we just had to take it back to the roots. Well, he said that many times, unfortunately, but that was always, that was a standard thing. He's like, man, we just got too complex. We had to take it back. I thought Nate Woody did a good job of taking a complex scheme and keeping it attainable for his guys. And that was one of the best defenses that App State ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've heard
Go
that.
get ball. Go get ball is pretty easy to understand. Fill gaps.
Go fetch.
Not Ted Roof defense.
So that's the thing that people don't understand too about the roof thing, is the reason in September why we look like deers in headlights on a defense that was elite in 2018 is because of exactly what you said, David. He made it too difficult. I don't know if Josh Thomas told this on the show or not, or he just told us off air. I don't remember, but basically all those star senior defenders, they were all looking at each other going like, who's going to tell Coach Roof that we need to not do this? And like, we need to go back to we need 10 plays, and then we'll be good. And then that's when that game against Louisiana where we beat them, what was it, 14-10 or whatever it ended up, 17-10 or whatever it was down in Louisiana. That's when it started. And I don't think we gave up hardly any points after that. But it was about simplicity. And
that's the relationship difference that is different in the pros versus college. I think college coaches have to, especially from seniors, and it's hard now because you don't have those guys. You don't have those guys that have worn it for 4 years in a program and understand the standard and what those guys around them can do because they've watched them grow up and do it, right? Yeah. Now it's just a collection of people that are together and they're like, okay, maybe we can do this, maybe we can't. But who is communicating that message is one thing, but then the other thing is, are you willing to receive that message? Is a coaching staff that's coming in a transition willing to say, guys, teach us. We're trying to teach you, but give us that feedback of, is this too much? I think, it's going to take a little bit of time to get the guys that they can trust to give them that message accurately and not just, hey man, we're 4-4. Let's change everything up. Sometimes it's keep eating your vegetables and one day you'll be strong.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they are right now. It's like, trust us, believe us. We know what we're doing, and they've just got to see the results.
See, that's why I think the defense has actually shown a little bit of that this year. I know offense is harder. I mean, you have to execute on offense is just really hard. I mean, you just got to do certain things, and defense sometimes can look great on a bad pass. Well, defense didn't really do anything; it was just a bad pass. But to me, it looks like on defense we are guys are in spots where they should be more than they have been in the immediate years past.
Oh yeah.
And I think that they look a lot better, even though, and we've mentioned this on the show all year, I'm not really seeing a tremendous like stud play. I mean, Colton Ferris has had a really good year. Rondo Porter certainly makes his plays. Dylan Manuel. There are guys that like will show up, but no one's like taking over a game like an Akeem Davis Gaither or whatever. Yet still, they're playing really well. That to me looks like they've simplified it, and that's a well coached side of the ball. I'm not saying that offenses are scrubs. I think I see that more on defense this year.
How many times do you hear an NFL defensive coordinator say, "Man, our guys just didn't tackle today"? Not very often.
Yeah.
Those guys can tackle. That is something that they can fundamentally do. Now, whether they're in the right spot to do it all the time, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I think you take the last 3 weeks, certainly 2 of the last 3 weeks. If you stop somebody, you're winning games, like Charles was saying earlier. I mean, the thing that's been, I think DJ's done a great job as a first-year coordinator. I think he's brought a really exciting style of defense and was willing to make an adjustment too. Yeah. And part of that is based on personnel that are available to him. But the other piece to that too is I think equally as concerning has been the lack of has been the poor tackling at this stage of the year. If you said week 1 and 2, hey, we've missed 27 tackles a game or whatever Dal keeps saying, then okay, yeah, that's especially the way guys practice now. I get that, but again, week 9, you're like, man, why is this happening now? What's going on here? And that's where I think DJ is probably cut from that cloth. I trust him to be able to go, all right, guys, what gives? Why is this being, and that's where I think the version of the team that steps out on the field Thursday night, I'm going to be interested to see how different they look than the last one that we saw. Yeah. If they didn't go under the hood in this period of time, then they missed some time. And I got a feeling that they did.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, because I think last year it felt like there were many times on the field where guys weren't they were supposed to be, and we didn't tackle well. And I think that just accumulated to like a bad season, where this year I think more guys are around the ball. But you're right, David. In the last couple of games, it's just looked bad. I mean, just they're not playing physical. Granted, they followed the Coastal game up way better at ODU on the road, way better, but still not great. To your point, I think that's and if you're not gonna, I'll never forget Dave Pastuzik said this like 4 years ago when Marshall first came back to Boone. He said, enough of this. What can get us fired up? Like, if you're not fired up to play this game, then what are you here for? And I think about that on Thursday night. Like, if we come out and we don't have juice or whatever, I'll be really surprised. I mean, this should be baked in. Like, come out. If you can't work yourself up to tackle on Thursday, what are we doing? Like, what are we even doing here?
Well, for all but 50 of them, they know what it means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for Brendan Harrington, he knows. He knows.
In about 95 hours, all this stuff that's pregame talk and good stuff, we won't be thinking about that when we're in the stands and have a tropic pail in our hands, and we see those white jerseys on the other side and those blue helmets, and we're just going to think about all the things we've ever thought about them. And it's like, I don't care what it takes. There's no other game in the country that matters more than what we're doing right here, right now.
Yep.
Let's beat the brakes off of them.
I think we're going gold jerseys on white pants this week in honor of Alex too. Just to get it's called a white gold out.
No, it's called I was going to say something about Love Week. I was trying to make a variation of Love Week. I don't know what they do in the NFL. Significant Other Week. I don't know what they do in the NFL. But David, you were saying something. I think that was it in the satchel, if I heard Charles correctly. Just before we wrap up the show, you had said that you had I think spoken to Kearns about the basketball season. We just had our basketball preview, so we're really excited about basketball starting, but just interested to hear your take on basketball.
Yeah, so we're getting ready for that big Carolina game on Wednesday night. not that Carolina. But no, we got a chance to talk with him last week, kind of a preseason call, and I think there's similar to what he shared with you guys, there's some optimism there. I think the things that stood out the most to me were his comments about depth. I think he feels like he's got a little bit more even substitution pattern this year where there's not as much of a drop off. And that's certainly reminiscent to 2 years ago when you felt like no matter what lineup combination he was able to throw out there, you were still putting good quality guys out there. Obviously, that's what a coach says at the beginning of the year. We'll have to see how that plays out. But that was a notable thing that he didn't necessarily hit on last year. I think you got the sense that the roster or the playable roster was a little bit shorter last year. I think that's a little bit deeper. I'm really excited to see Luke Wilson and what he's been able to do with another year in the program, in the weight room. And he brought up an interesting story, and I'm sure he shared this enough. I certainly don't think that we're the only group that he said this to, but, because Luke played football as much as he did, growing up, he made the argument that you could say that last year was really one of the first full years that Luke has been dedicated 100% to basketball.
Yeah.
And then you throw the injury issues that he's had throughout his career. You could make the argument that this year could be the first year that he's had 100% of his time to concentrate about basketball. I think Luke is going to be a great sign, or he's going to be a sign of player development. Whether that is great, I hope it is. I think that would be having Luke be an elite player on the interior of this team, considering what that kind of combo guard-esque look to it looks like. Man, he could be the perfect capper to something like this.
Yep.
And if he's not, then maybe that says something else. But certainly I think he's got a lot of upside. I do like his thoughts about the way that this team can defend. And utilizing their athleticism a little bit more to maybe put a little bit more pressure on teams instead of, kind of letting the game come back to them a little bit. I loved the aggressive style of defense they played 2 years ago, and they rattled off, 400 wins or whatever it was that season felt like it. And I think that to coaches, credit, he had to play the minutes management game, where he couldn't always take that risk. And I think, let's remember how last year ended too. You had some guys on legs that just weren't there anymore.
Yep.
This roster seems to be built better for the long haul. Knock on wood. Hopefully everybody stays healthy, and they've got a great opportunity to showcase that early in the season. I think it's a very winnable schedule. They've got their challenges out there, but they've also got an opportunity to go out and prove it a little bit. High Point, Charlotte, and all those things, they'll be fun. So he seemed to be very, again, you'd hate to run across the coach that's like, oh God, we got to start this season, man, we're going to be terrible. I mean, he said all the things you would assume that a coach would say, but the things that he was most passionate about, I think, are the characteristics of championship caliber teams, and that's defensive intensity, deep rotation, and some guys on the development side that may be looking to take a step forward this year. So I think there's some cause for some optimism.
My favorite thing that Kern said on his preview was, if I ever needed a sub for Miles, I just called timeout.
That's what he said. He told us the same thing. When I heard that, he I was like, yeah, well, that definitely was the case.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I think, there's, I think both, Coach Sharp, I spoke to her a couple weeks ago at one of the Chancellor events, and she's equally as excited about their roster and their development at this point in time. One of the things that we brought up with Kearns, we got to do a little bit of research. He's got 5 guys that were on the roster last year. That's got to be one of the top numbers in the country. And isn't that crazy to say?
Yeah.
And he talked about all 5 of those guys getting minutes upgrades, not just because they were here, but because they've gotten better. So I think that it's got an opportunity to showcase what you can do with player development. And, he brings up the CJ Huntley story. I know he brought it up with you guys too about, CJ is a guy that is the poster child for why you stay.
Yeah.
He was able to take full advantage of every minute that he was able to play in black and gold, and he got to the NBA, right? It can be done here.
Yeah.
And some of the nuanced things about scouts only having to call one strength coach, only having to call one set of coaches to get everything that they know about a guy. I
Yeah.
think that is going to be an important thing that they will certainly drive home on the recruiting side of things. But I think in college basketball, it's just a little bit different. And that if you can get into a program that prioritizes development, can develop players and showcase them, I think CJ Huntley was the reason why you stay. Maybe Justin Absence the reason why you don't go.
Yeah.
Based on where those two careers have gone,
Yeah.
you can make that argument. So I think that it'll be interesting to see certainly how CJ does this year in that two-way contract, but how that message resonates with this roster, with Luke Wilson, and with guys that they may be bringing in the future.
Yeah. Oh, God,
that just depends on if you want to play basketball or not. Do you want to play minutes or do you want to watch minutes?
When you get thrown $400,000 at you to go watch minutes, that's hard. But on the other hand, you see that by foregoing maybe that short-term gain, here's a guy that's gonna, whether he's on a two-way contract or not, CJ Huntley's going to do pretty well making money in the game of basketball for the next several years. So, and he might not have taken that big payday. You see guys, it seems like read an article that I can't remember if it was Billis or somebody wrote that the kind of the going rate for that mid-tier bench player in the SEC right now is somewhere between 600 and 900 grand.
Yeah, it is. It's
unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
I mean, but that's a mid-tier player. So that guy's getting some minutes probably, but the low tier guy, like, do you wait it out and be elite and get developed and get a chance to showcase yourself? Because you can't put tape out there if you're sitting on the pine.
Yeah, and we talk about this on the show all the time, and it is not lost on me. I know it's a ton of money, and I'm not like, I get it, it's a ton of money. Talk about Abson, but we talk all the time about when Donovan Gregory walks back onto the court and is recognized, home center's going to cheer. CJ Huntley comes back, they're going to cheer. Miles Tate comes back, they're going to cheer. Terrence Harcum, who was part of the best Zap team, I don't know if they're going to cheer. They'll cheer. I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to cheer, but like, legacy is something. I'm not saying is it worth $500,000? Okay, fine. But it is interesting how some of these guys that did stay and stuck around and created some great moments, people remember their names forever. Where, Justin Abson, who's a really great player for Appalachian State, goes off to Georgia and hangs out and plays, 6 minutes.
Well, we haven't. I'll say I understand where you are there. However, I will counter you with there's going to be a day where there's going to be an app guy that gets recruited, pick your sport, at the high school level, and he's going to come in here for a year, and the portal is going to take him out of here and going to go get the NIL and is going to go, Joey is almost this guy. His path wasn't exactly this. But when you have the first guy that starts here that becomes a superstar, how many of those people are going to be like, oh, man, I remember him when he was here?
I'm not pulling against Justin Abson at all. I think he's a good player, but it's just, your heart, you want them to want it as much as you, and you're just a fan, and you're sitting there, you're not having to do all this stuff. You're getting recruited to play basketball.
And I think we just need to recenter on what it is. It is not what it used to be. It is not a 5-year journey anymore. It's just not. And I think that's the challenge for coaches, to make the best they can. And maybe that is 3 years worth of development, or getting a guy that maybe was a little rough around the edges and polishing that stone and sending them onward. But I think to a coach across the country, you do not expect to recruit kids to this program and have every one of them here for 5 years. They'd be lying through their teeth if they told you they were. It's just not set up that way anymore. But as fans, we haven't made that adjustment yet. We're sitting there going, there's no continuity on the roster anymore. It's like, well, then quit looking for it.
No,
it's not there anymore. I used to like Andy Griffith when it was in black and white too, but they put color on there, and then you could see that Ron Howard and I had much more in common than you ever thought. So
that was it. Justin Abson, I looked it up to be curious, averaging 9.5 minutes a game, 2 points a game, looks like 2 rebounds a game. I mean, he's making $400,000 a year. Is doing great. But that's the choice you're making.
He's making more than the three of us combined.
That he's making a lot. He's making a whole bunch of bread. He is, and Yeah, and he
And
had a
hopefully
great
he'll get a chance this year. I don't know how relevant George is going to be, but
yeah.
we'll see.
Anyway, so very good, David. Thank you for your time. It was good. Hate week, short week. Had recorded on a Sunday night, but we check it off the list.
Hey,
And
way to persevere, way to grind, guys.
hey, just got to do what we
Give
got
the
to do.
people what they want. I
Well,
mean,
we're not. I mean, you're
we
on the show,
recorded
so
long
I don't
enough,
know if
they'll
we
be able to
are.
listen up to kickoff. So
Yeah. If we gave the people what they wanted, I think we would have had Adam Witten, but I wanted you to be on here just to give you a shot.
fair, that's fine. Well, yeah, it's way past his bedtime. You know, can't have the looks he does for radio without getting at least 12, 13 hours sleep.
I don't know if you need to be taking shots at people and how they look, David. I really don't.
I don't think any of us need to be.
No. I said that he was the beneficiary of that time. I wasn't.
My earbud fell out. I didn't hear whatever
Come
insult you threw at me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Charles, anything before we wrap up the show?
I think I'm good.
Cool.
Short week, short pod, if that
Short week,
exists.
short pod. Yeah. It's been good. Good discussions were had. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for downloading this episode of the Black and Gold podcast. Thank you to Boonshine for continuing to sponsor the show, being an awesome partner. We're ready for basketball, ready for football, beat Georgia Southern, beat Western Michigan, and until our post-game episode, go Apps.